I grew up eating animals, every kind of animal. I grew up, my father owned ice cream stores. I ate ice cream every single night. And I was a typical kid who cared about animals. I had a dog. I brought strays in if they were at my door. A bird fell from a tree, I remember, and kind of healing him and fixing him. Typical things. And all of the adults support this. All of the adults are thrilled when a child is kind to an animal, and they're a little nervous when a child is not so kind to an animal. We recognize that as a sign of pathology. We know something's wrong if a child wants to hurt an animal, right? So we support that compassion. Now, all that was supported when I was growing up, but at the same time I was being fed animals. I was being brought to the zoo, to look at these animals. But I had animals all over my pajamas, animals all over my room, animals all over my mobile, stuffed animals on my bed, right? Animals, pets. We had books that used animals to teach us how to read, fundamental skills that teach us how to count, that teach us how to spell, teach us to be respectful. All of these messages that animals are part of us, they're part of our lives. And I was being fed animals at the same time. So slowly what happened is the split is created. I'm now desensitized to animals, to their suffering, right? They're different from me, they're there for me. We start to ask our parents why we're eating these animals or what we're eating. Well, they're here for us, and all of these excuses our parents start to tell us. So I was completely asleep. And when I was about 19, I read Diet for a New America, John Robbins' book, Diet for a New America, which was the first book that made the connection between our consumption of animals and how it affects our health and how it affects the environment and how it affects the animals themselves. And it floored me. I had never seen anything like this before. I had never read anything like that before. But I was still somewhat asleep because I still continued eating eggs and eating, cow's milk products and drinking cow's milk. I didn't quite get it. And I was an animal advocate. I was still, I was actually advocating for animals, but I didn't quite make the connection. And what made the connection for me was becoming aware of the slaughter. Was when I read a book called Slaughterhouse, and it makes the connection no matter what, no matter how the animals are raised or reared, they go to this pretty horrific place. And that was it. That was what woke me up. And it changed everything. It changed my perspective, it changed my perception, it changed the lens through which I see the world. And it's painful to be that aware. It's painful to know that exists, but it's also really empowering, and it's also a quite joyful way to live because I get to make the decisions. I know I'm informed, and every decision I make is based on causing as little harm as possible. And how amazing is that we can do that? But the response that we get when we're adults and we're compassionate is not the same response that we get when we're children and we're compassionate. And that really saddens me. It really saddens me because people they're kind of suspicious of a compassionate adult, and they praise a compassionate child. And for me, there's something even more beautiful about being an informed, compassionate adult than just an innocent, compassionate child. And so being awake is quite an extraordinary experience.